I don't even know how many times I watched the Homeward Bound films when I was growing up. I loved these films. And in later years, I realised they were based on the earlier Disney film The Incredible Journey, which of course is based on the story by Sheila Burnford. But I never got round to watching it, and that's for the simple reason that I do not like sad animal films. That's not necessarily to say that the endings of these films are sad, but if anything sad happens to a cat or a dog, the film, I would rather not watch it. But I'm trying to watch every Disney feature film, and I'm now in the 60s. This was released in 1963, and I thought, let's just go for it. And there's one main difference between this and the remake of Homeward Bound. They're not identical narratives, they're very similar, but not identical. I'm not going to compare them completely, but I do want to mention this one thing, which I think was a much better idea with the remake. As I said, this was released in 1963, directed by Fletcher Markle, screenplays by James Alger, based on the story by Sheila Burnford. And this is the story of two dogs and a cat who try and find their owners because their owners are on vacation, and of course they miss their owners and they want their owners. And it's very similar to the remakes, where they are off in the wilderness on their own by rivers, encountering dangerous animals, and we see these animals in all kinds of sticky situations. And honestly, I'd like to say no animals were harmed in the making of this, but they are in some pretty difficult situations. And we do get to see some incredible animals. I won't name them, I won't give anything away, but I just hope that they were well looked after. I assume they were. But obviously, as a child, it's not something I ever thought of. And certainly with this film, some of the situations do seem quite dangerous. So I hope the animals were fine. We have a Labrador, a bulldog, and a Siamese cat. And one thing I had to get used to were the names. The names are different, and we have Bodger, Teo, and Luath. And they're obviously Chance, Sassy, and Shadow in the remake, and they're names that have stuck with me for life. I haven't seen those films in about 2 decades, but the names are still in my head. So it took a bit of getting used to see similar characters with different names. The actual development of the narrative is quite action packed. The pacing is quite good. It is emotional. It absolutely is emotional, and it's beautifully shot. We have some gorgeous shots of our 3 main characters, and also of other animals and the wilderness and the different landscapes. Beautifully done, visually really gorgeous. The one thing that I didn't like, and I don't know how I would have felt about this had I not seen Homeward Bound, but the animals don't speak. It's actually narrated by Rex Allen, and it kind of feels like a Disney nature documentary at times. Whenever we have human characters in it, that's not the case, but obviously a large chunk of this is just animals out and about, and they're being narrated. And I recently watched several Disney nature documentaries, which were from James Alger, who wrote this screenplay, so there's no surprise there that it actually feels kind of similar. And it's not necessarily a bad thing on its own, but with Homeward Bound, the animals have voices, and that gives them much bigger personalities, and it makes it even more emotional because you really are drawn to these characters. You build up a relationship with them. You can learn a lot more about them. So I feel like it would have been better if they had voices, but I know that's with the benefit of knowing what that's like with the remake. So it's not necessarily a bad thing on the film's part, but it definitely is something that is not as good if you're watching this after Homeward Bound. If you liked Homeward Bound, you will love this. It's very similar. If you've never seen Homeward Bound, I don't know if I would recommend this first, because it came first, and also because Homeward Bound, in my opinion, is a better film. Watch this first, and then things will improve. Yeah, so I'd say watch this first, and then watch Homeward Bound. In fact, I think the full title is Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey. I guess they were trying to make it clear that it is basically a remake. I enjoyed it well enough, but it was emotional. I won't be watching it again. I'm glad I can tick it off of my list, but beyond that, yeah, it's a good film, but a little too emotional for me.